Hey there, Internet. Well, I've made a couple more updates and I want to show you the new stuff. So let's get started. I'm going to go ahead and hit a swing and then we'll take a look at the new changes. Well, let's go over to the user interface and take a look. All right, so the first thing you're going to notice here is I've got the ability to undock the screen, which is pretty cool because we can use more of the screen real estate. Let's close this. We'll resize this a little bit bigger. Okay, so you're going to see a couple new things. The first thing is that these are now rendered in plugins, which means that it's going to be a whole lot easier for me to update and make any changes to the system. And we're going to demonstrate that a little later in the video. But what you see here is you see a little yellow dot. Now that dot represents the tracking of my left hand. And the opacity of that dot gets brighter as I approach my peak hand velocity. So you can see right here, very, very bright. It's only, this chart is only on the right hand screen. And then as I get into impact, it slows down and then it picks up speed again. So that's pretty cool. And then this is kind of an accident, but now I'm rendering my hip tracking in the face on view. And that's kind of cool because you can see exactly how much lateral shifts you have in your swing. I had to refactor a whole bunch of stuff to get this to work, but right now I think it's in pretty good shape to be able to add plugins, to be able to change the user interface how you want it, and you know, it's going to allow me to go a little bit faster with adding different modules to the system. I want to talk a little bit about the plugin system. It's going to be a bunch of Python, so if you're not a programmer, you're not interested in how the system works, you can probably, you know, just click the like button and close the video. But if you want to see how this actually works, let's go over to the machine and I'll walk you through a bit of the code and we'll actually create a new module to do some different kind of tracking.
So the first thing I'm going to just run through is the most basic example. And actually, maybe I should start with the base class. Here's the base class. There's a bunch of crap in here. I'm not going to go into that, but essentially this is the thing that gets inherited from. This is a very basic example. And really all this thing does is multiply the values in the pandas data frame that it gets from the machine learning algorithm, the pose estimation. It multiplies the y values by -1000 and it multiplies the x values by 1000. That's just, for whatever reason, that's the way the data was encoded. But in order to fit it back into the frame, you have to set that back. So this is a pretty basic example. There's a config that gets updated. I set a bunch of these things to false other than enable because I only want to run this preprocessed data frame function. Now you'll see the stubs for a couple other functions here. So we've got a thing called process static data. The static data frame is just, it's going to be an overlay that renders for the entire time of the video. The next thing is the tracking frame, and this is going to be basically, you know, if you want to track a point in space through the video as you know, mapped from the pandas data frame, you can do that here. And then the idea behind process trace frame is that if you want to have a persistent building, you know, line, let's say you want to track your swing plane, you can do that in this trace frame. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a new one of these and we're going to try to track my spine angle. It's pretty easy. So let's have at it. In this pipes directory, basically this will dynamically load all of the files in this pipes directory, and it'll automatically run them on the data frame and any frames that are available if those options are enabled. So we're going to create a new file and we're going to call this spine pipe. Okay, so here it is. We've got the class name is spine pipe. We've actually given it a name called spine pipe in case we want to refer to that in the future. And then we've stubbed out the different things that we might want to do with this particular plugin. Okay, so here's the code. It basically is going to grab that hip middle coordinate, which is the middle of my hips, and it's going to grab the head coordinate and the X and the Y. We're going to use a thing basically to paint onto the overlay, and then we're going to draw a line with those 4 positions. Very, very straightforward. And this static frame will be visible for the video rendering for all time. So you'll always see this particular frame. Now we have to add a couple dependencies here, so we'll just go up and add a couple imports. We've got that ready to go. So we'll write the file. Okay, and then I'm going to run this basic test. So now we've got this blue line, and this blue line doesn't move. It's just rendered on the first frame. And that's the initial, basically on frame 0 of the data set. That is where my spine angle was. So now let's add the tracking. And the tracking is basically, well, it is exactly the same. So we're just going to change a couple things. It's not exactly the same. So we're going to make this, let's make this red. And we'll make this 3 pixels. I forgot to add this, of course. Okay, so now this is going to for every frame in the data set, this will be called, it will grab the coordinates of my middle of my hips and my head, and it'll paint that as a red line. The red line is specified here. It's a red line of 3 pixels. And then here's the coordinates. It's just going to paint that onto the screen. And there we go. So we can see here that this might not be the best match. And the reason for that is it's mapping to the top of my head. So if we want to actually update this to maybe something just slightly more accurate, what we're going to go ahead and do is we're just going to change the data point in the skeleton. Okay. Now let's take a look at that one. All right. So here's our initial position. And if we go through to impact, we can see actually pretty good spine angle. You'll notice that the video doesn't start. My takeaway was probably pretty slow here. And so the buffer for the video started a little bit later. So this might not actually be accurate. But anyway, you'll see, you get some kind of representation. It's not perfect. You'll see that you see this line jiggling around here. If I move it back and forth, that's basically the pose estimation, not knowing where my hand is. And that data will show up as noise. And you can see it by wiggling around. Now there's some filtering that I do to basically make some of that go away. But for the most part, this is because I'm using a very small model. I'm trying to get the most performance possible out of the thing. And there's a bunch of things that I have to do to get more accurate plus high performance out of this whole thing. I also, right now, this is because I just got this working. This is happening very, very sequentially. And I can make almost all of this parallel by using a bunch of threads. So that's going to be one of the next things that I do is get a thread pool going. And because I have 16 cores available to run threads on, I'll be able to distribute this, and it should be substantially faster. So that's it. That's probably less than 5 minutes of work from start to finish, and I have a new way to understand what's happening with my swing. If you haven't fallen asleep by now, thanks for watching. If you have any ideas, please leave them down in the comments below. If you're interested in collaborating with this, drop me a note on GitHub. My GitHub username is JSCHOCH. You can find one of my repositories. You can find the swingbuddy repository and drop me a note. We can also potentially talk on Discord. Looking for collaborators. I'm a pretty terrible Python programmer, and so there's a bunch of room for optimization here for the video rendering pipeline and a bunch of the other stuff. So if you're interested in collaborating, let me know. And next time I have a significant update, I'll go ahead and create a new video. So thanks for watching again, and see you later.